Some truths are uncomfortable, even brutal, but seeing them clearly changes everything. There is a type of intelligence that isn't measured by tests, diplomas, or degrees. It's the kind that sees through illusions, that understands people before they act, that remains calm when the world collapses around others. It is not just knowledge. It is clarity, perception, and strategic awareness. The kind of thinking that turns life's challenges into opportunities rather than obstacles. These are 9 ruthless lessons about reality, human nature, and decision-making. Each one sharpens the mind, hones judgment, and builds the kind of insight that gives an undeniable edge in life. By the end of this video, clarity will replace confusion, awareness will replace doubt, and life will never look quite the same again. Welcome to Stoic Sage Academy. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Emotions shape actions. More than logic, emotions are far more powerful than we give them credit for. They are the hidden architects of our decisions, quietly steering our thoughts, behaviors, and lives long before logic has a chance to intervene. Every choice, every action, every so-called rational decision begins in the emotional realm. Fear, desire, pride, envy, hope, or even guilt. These are the true engines driving human behavior. Logic often appears only after the fact, like a clever storyteller justifying the path the heart has already taken. Take, for example, the simple act of buying a luxury car. On the surface, the reasoning may appear practical. It holds its value, is more reliable, offers better safety features, or provides higher performance. Yet beneath these arguments lies a far stronger force, the desire for status, the longing for admiration, or the need to feel successful in comparison to others. Logic steps in only after the emotional decision has been made, offering reasons that soothe conscience and justify action. This isn't limited to big purchases. It plays out in daily life constantly. A person choosing a job that pays more but makes them miserable, a parent enforcing strict rules out of fear rather than reason, a friend cutting ties because pride makes them unable to apologize. Emotions shape perception, and perception shapes action. Understanding this is not just insight, it's strategic intelligence. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, a master of observing human nature, repeatedly emphasized the difference between external events and our responses. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond, he wrote. This principle is not theoretical, it is profoundly practical. The moment you recognize that fear is driving hesitation or envy is driving irritation, you gain power. You are no longer a slave to instinct. You are an observer, capable of intervening before emotion dictates the course of action. Consider a story from daily life. A friend receives harsh criticism at work. The first reaction is anger or embarrassment, and almost immediately, a torrent of justification or blame begins in the mind. They don't understand my work. They're unfair. This is ridiculous. The emotional reaction has already dictated the story. Only afterward do we try to rationalize, convincing ourselves that our response was justified or that the other person was simply wrong. A Stoic would pause, observe the emotion without judgment, and ask, what is this feeling telling me, and how can I act wisely despite it? Clarity arises when we treat emotions as signals rather than commands. Fear signals risk or uncertainty, but it does not mandate avoidance. Desire signals what we value, but it does not demand indulgence. Pride signals self-perception, but it does not demand defense. When emotions are seen as indicators, not rulers, we gain freedom. This is the difference between being reactive and being strategic, between being manipulated by internal impulses and exercising conscious choice. Even in relationships, the power of emotions over logic is clear. Two people argue, and each insists on being right. On the surface, the disagreement may seem to be about money, chores, or social plans. Yet almost always, the underlying driver is emotional: hurt, fear of rejection, insecurity, or the desire to dominate. If you focus only on the surface logic, you will miss the real battleground. But if you recognize the emotional currents, you can respond with precision, addressing the real need without being consumed by the drama. Marcus Aurelius also understood this principle. He reminded himself that anger or irritation is a choice, not a necessity. When provoked, he reflected, "It is not the act itself, but my judgment about it that troubles me." By separating the event from the emotional reaction, he maintained clarity and composure. This is the essence of Stoic mastery over emotion, not the suppression of feeling, but the cultivation of understanding and control. To practice this, begin with small daily moments. Notice when impatience rises while waiting in line. Observe the anxiety before sending an important email. Reflect on the irritation in traffic or the pangs of envy when someone else succeeds. Each of these is a microcosm of emotional influence on behavior. Don't judge the emotion. Simply observe it. Ask, what is this feeling signaling? How should I respond if I act with wisdom rather than instinct? Over time, this practice rewires perception. The mind stops being a battlefield of impulsive reactions. It becomes a laboratory of clarity, strategy, and insight. Dangerous intelligence emerges from this mastery. When you see the emotional roots of decisions in yourself and others, you gain an advantage that most people never recognize. You understand why someone behaves irrationally, why society is drawn into trends and panic, why businesses make decisions that seem illogical in hindsight. You can predict outcomes, intervene wisely, and act with a calm precision that the emotionally enslaved cannot match. In essence, the first lesson is simple yet profound. Emotion always precedes logic. To see clearly, you must first learn to observe the invisible forces shaping human behavior. Emotions are not enemies, they are signals. Logic is not the commander. It is the tool that interprets the signal. When you understand this, every interaction, decision, and challenge becomes an opportunity to act with conscious intelligence rather than being swept away by instinct. Lesson 2. Self-interest drives. Every action understanding human behavior begins with a single, sometimes uncomfortable truth. Everyone acts in their own self-interest. This is not cynicism, it is reality. Beneath the veneer of politeness, friendship, or even altruism, human beings make choices based on what they perceive will benefit them. Recognizing this is not about mistrusting everyone. It's about seeing the world clearly and acting wisely. Self-interest operates on multiple levels. Sometimes it is obvious. Someone wants money, power, recognition, or pleasure. Other times it is subtle. A colleague offering help may desire your approval. A friend showing kindness may seek validation. Or a family member appearing selfless may be motivated by guilt, expectation, or legacy. The danger lies in assuming people act purely out of goodwill. When reality contradicts expectation, disappointment is inevitable. Consider the story of a neighbor, a woman named Sarah. To casual observation, she seemed the epitome of generosity. She organized community events, brought gifts to newcomers, volunteered tirelessly for local projects. Everyone admired her selflessness. Yet beneath the surface, there was a calculated purpose. Sarah was running for city council. Every smile, every handshake, every act of kindness strategically built name recognition and influence within the community. She wasn't malicious. She was simply aligning her actions with her self-interest. People still benefited from her generosity, but the motivation was layered and pragmatic. This principle extends to all levels of life. At work, clients, bosses, and co-workers have agendas. At home, family members navigate dynamics to satisfy emotional or practical needs. In society, governments and organizations act to protect their interests. Understanding this doesn't make one bitter or suspicious. It makes one perceptive, prepared, and effective. It allows alignment of your own actions with reality, rather than with illusions of fairness or idealism. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, was keenly aware of this principle. Even acts of loyalty and service could have layers of self-interest, yet he did not see this as a flaw in human nature. He saw it as the law of reality. Recognizing self-interest allows the wise to navigate the world strategically. If you expect pure altruism, you will be repeatedly disappointed. If you expect reality, you gain power to act wisely. The Stoics teach that self-interest is natural and should be understood, not condemned. Epictetus emphasized observing motivations, both in ourselves and others. When you clearly see what drives a person, you can respond intelligently rather than emotionally. For example, if a colleague offers assistance on a project, consider both possibilities. They may genuinely want to help, or they may want to gain insight, build rapport, or secure credit for themselves. Understanding the underlying motivation enables informed decision-making, choosing collaboration, caution, or redirection as needed. Self-interest also clarifies why disappointment is rarely personal. Someone canceling plans, breaking a promise, or prioritizing their own agenda is not inherently evil. They are acting according to their priorities. Understanding this removes the emotional sting. When the lens of perception shifts from expectation to reality, frustration diminishes, and judgment becomes precise. Stories abound of failed relationships or partnerships where one party assumed the other would act against their own interests. A business partner agreeing to terms that benefit both might later exploit the agreement because their interests changed. A friend promising loyalty may disappoint when a personal need or fear overrides the relationship. Recognizing that self-interest is a constant allows preparation, safeguards, and strategic alignment. The Stoics practiced this by constantly observing human nature. Seneca, navigating the treacherous politics of Rome, was acutely aware that loyalty and friendship were often intertwined with ambition and self-preservation. Instead of being cynical, he used this understanding to structure interactions where mutual benefit existed. Cooperation was possible, but it was grounded in reality rather than idealism. Self-interest is not inherently selfish. When understood and aligned properly, it becomes a tool for mutual gain. Align your interests with those of others. Structure relationships so that helping one another serves both parties. This is not manipulation, it is wisdom. Attempting to act against natural inclinations is exhausting and ultimately ineffective. Fighting self-interest is like trying to swim upstream against a current, painful and futile. Observe a practical scenario. A neighbor asks you for help. Your first instinct may be to feel obligation or guilt, but step back and ask, what is motivating this request? Is there mutual benefit? What boundaries should I set? Perhaps helping them will strengthen the community, teach skills, or foster a relationship that is valuable in the long term. Perhaps it's a one-time favor. Either way, understanding the hidden currents allows you to respond wisely rather than react emotionally. Dangerous intelligence emerges from this recognition. It transforms interactions from naive trust to informed engagement. When you understand the self-interest driving behavior, you can predict outcomes, protect yourself from exploitation, and leverage opportunities for growth and alignment. You stop expecting miracles from human nature and start creating results through clarity, observation, and strategic action. In essence, the second lesson is profound yet simple. Everyone acts according to their perceived self-interest. Ignoring this truth leads to repeated disappointment. Understanding it provides clarity, foresight, and freedom. By observing motivations, both visible and hidden, you gain power to act wisely, influence outcomes, and align yourself with reality instead of illusions. Lesson 3. Brutal self-honesty is the gateway to growth. One of the harshest truths about life is that most people cannot handle the truth about themselves. Comfortable illusions protect the ego, but they also imprison potential. Without brutal self-honesty, progress is stunted, patterns are repeated, and opportunities are missed. The moment you start seeing yourself clearly, without filters, excuses, or self-deception, you gain a power few possess, the ability to navigate life with clarity and precision. Consider your own life for a moment. How often do you ignore feedback, rationalize failures, or blame circumstances for outcomes that partly result from your choices? Every time we deflect responsibility, we remain trapped in cycles of mediocrity. The Stoics observed this with striking clarity. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on his own faults, mistakes, and weaknesses. He did not avoid discomfort or ignore flaws. He documented them, analyzed them, and used them as a map for improvement. Imagine a friend, Mike, constantly frustrated by being passed over for promotions. He complains about office politics, unfair managers, and the system working against him. To the casual observer, he is the victim of circumstance. But closer observation reveals patterns, missed deadlines, arguments with supervisors, and repeated tardiness. Mike sees none of this because it threatens his self-image. A harsh truth lies buried beneath excuses. He is partially responsible for the outcomes he laments. Brutal self-honesty means confronting these truths, no matter how uncomfortable. It is a practice of looking inward with precision and clarity. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding about my behavior? Where do my weaknesses lie? Which patterns keep repeating and why? The answers are rarely flattering, but they are invaluable. Without them, growth is impossible. The Stoic philosophers did not approach self-honesty as a form of self-punishment. It was a tool, a weapon for freedom. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Understanding your weaknesses and blind spots allows you to respond rationally rather than reactively to life's challenges. It allows you to cultivate habits, relationships, and strategies aligned with reality rather than illusion. Consider the broader implications. When you understand your own limitations, you also gain the ability to see patterns in others. You recognize when pride, fear, or denial drives decisions. You predict defensive reactions, excuses, and rationalizations. This insight is powerful. It allows you to navigate relationships, negotiations, and challenges without being blindsided by predictable human behaviors. Brutal self-honesty also requires confronting your emotions. Are you motivated by fear, envy, or ego? Are you clinging to comfort at the expense of growth? The moment you identify these drivers, you regain agency. This is a central tenet of Stoicism. External events cannot control you, but your judgment over them can. By honestly assessing yourself, you reclaim control over your mind, your actions, and your trajectory in life. A practical exercise. At the end of each day, reflect on decisions you made. Where were you honest with yourself? Where did self-deception creep in? Which actions aligned with your highest values and which were driven by fear, laziness, or desire for approval? Over time, this daily practice strengthens your mind, sharpens judgment, and reveals the invisible patterns that shape your life. The consequences of ignoring this lesson are severe. Without self-honesty, you remain reactive to circumstances, dependent on external validation, and vulnerable to manipulation. Every failure feels like a catastrophe. Every criticism feels like a personal attack, and every opportunity for improvement passes unnoticed. With brutal self-honesty, you are liberated. Mistakes become lessons, failures become guides, and challenges become stepping stones. Seneca articulated this principle beautifully. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The end is often the end of comfortable illusions about ourselves. When you embrace that end, you create the foundation for a new beginning, a life of clarity, mastery, and purpose. In essence, the third lesson is a simple but ruthless truth. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Self-deception keeps most people weak, predictable, and stagnant. Brutal self-honesty transforms you into someone who can anticipate, adapt, and act strategically. It is not pleasant, but it is powerful. The danger lies in avoiding it. The power lies in embracing it fully. Lesson 4. Success creates enemies, and that's normal. One of the harshest realities of life is that success, by its very nature, provokes envy, resentment, and hostility. It is not about you personally. It is about others confronting their own limitations. When you rise, some people will cheer, some will ignore you, and others will quietly, or not so quietly, seek to undermine you. Understanding this reality is essential for clarity, emotional resilience, and strategic action. Imagine someone from your past, a peer, colleague, or childhood friend who once admired your potential. Over time, you outpace them in career, wealth, or personal growth. Suddenly, subtle slights begin. A compliment is tinged with sarcasm. Advice is replaced with criticism. Invitations disappear. This is not personal failure. It is the human response to confronting uncomfortable truths that your achievements highlight their unfulfilled potential. Consider a story from college. Your roommate David starts a tech company while still in school. Initially, he is admired for his intelligence, humor, and generosity. Friends seek his guidance, classmates joke with him, professors praise him. But as his startup grows, appearances in business magazines and recognition for his achievements trigger something invisible: jealousy. Former friends begin to make subtle jabs. Must be nice. I could do that if I had his opportunities. Or, money changed him. Their words are small, but they reveal the corrosive emotion beneath: envy. Marcus Aurelius encountered this on a colossal scale as emperor. He governed an empire while surrounded by advisors, generals, and politicians, many of whom resented his authority or sought personal advantage. Betrayals, plots, and criticism were constant companions. Yet Marcus maintained equanimity. He wrote, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Success attracts attention, but what matters is how you interpret and respond to that attention." The Stoic approach is clarity and emotional independence. People's envy is a reflection of their limitations, not a reflection of your worth or competence. Recognizing this distinction prevents unnecessary anger, guilt, or attempts to placate. The dangerous intelligence comes from predicting these reactions before they arise, allowing you to navigate relationships and public perception strategically without compromising your principles. Let's explore a practical example. You achieve a major promotion at work, receive public recognition, or complete a personal milestone. Some colleagues are genuinely happy, others are indifferent, and some respond with subtle undermining, questioning your methods, spreading rumors, or discounting your achievements. The instinct for many is to retaliate, defend, or explain, emotional reactions that only confirm the envious narrative. The Stoic response is different. Observe, understand, and act with deliberate purpose. Do not shrink your achievements. Do not seek validation. Continue focusing on contribution, growth, and excellence. This lesson has an even deeper layer. Anticipating envy allows for strategic relationships. Surround yourself with those who uplift and challenge you, rather than those whose success triggers their insecurity. Protect your energy. Avoid unnecessary confrontations with those who cannot separate their ego from your achievements. Seneca illustrated this principle in his writings, emphasizing that the wise person aligns with reality, not illusions of social harmony. He advised choosing companions carefully, for envy can erode trust, happiness, and focus if left unchecked. Emotional intelligence is critical here. Recognize subtle signs, microaggressions, dismissive comments, or friendly criticisms that feel like personal attacks. They are signals of insecurity and envy, not indicators of your failure. Respond with clarity and emotional control rather than reactive defensiveness. Maintain boundaries. Protect your achievements without flaunting them unnecessarily, and focus on consistent action. Over time, this approach transforms challenges into opportunities for refinement and self-mastery. The dangerous intelligence in this lesson is simple but profound. Success will provoke envy, and that is normal. Your response determines whether it becomes a source of stress or an instrument of growth. Every accomplished figure, from philosophers to modern entrepreneurs, has faced this reality. Those who thrive are those who recognize human nature, maintain emotional independence, and focus relentlessly on their path. The practical takeaway: anticipate envy. Observe behavior patterns and act with deliberate calm. Accept that some people will resent your achievements, not because of you, but because of themselves. Use this knowledge to protect your energy, refine your strategy, and continue progressing without distraction. The Stoic mindset reframes adversity in relationships as insight, not conflict. When someone undermines you, you gain intelligence about their character, priorities, and limitations. You can navigate the world with foresight rather than being surprised by predictable reactions. As Marcus Aurelius practiced, focus on what is within your control, your actions, your principles, your responses, and let the rest fall away. Success creates enemies, but it also reveals truth. Those who criticize or resent your growth are showing you their values, priorities, and limitations. Recognize it, learn from it, and continue forward with clarity and courage. This is the power of seeing the world as it is, without illusions or emotional bias. Lesson 5. Everyone is selling something, and it's everywhere one. Of the most subtle but powerful truths about human interaction is that everyone is selling something, not always a product, but an idea, an opinion, a feeling, or an action. Understanding this principle transforms the way you see the world, revealing motives behind every interaction, conversation, and relationship. Think about your daily life. A colleague compliments your work. Are they genuinely appreciative, or are they subtly positioning themselves to gain favor, insight, or collaboration? A friend invites you out. Do they want company, or are they seeking validation, distraction, or networking? Even casual interactions are not neutral. There is always a motive, sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious, and understanding it is a form of intelligence few cultivate. Consider the story of Jenny, an old high school acquaintance. After years of no contact, she reaches out to catch up. For 30 minutes, the conversation flows naturally. Questions about your work, compliments on achievements, shared memories. It feels warm, nostalgic, and genuine. Then, almost seamlessly, the conversation shifts. Jenny begins explaining her exciting business opportunity, a multi-level marketing scheme. Suddenly, what felt like friendship was a strategic interaction. The compliments, memories, and attention were packaging, a subtle persuasion tactic to sell her idea. This scenario is not unique. The world is full of people selling something. Friends, co-workers, acquaintances, strangers online. And it's not inherently negative, it's simply human behavior. The key is awareness. Dangerous intelligence comes from recognizing motivation behind interaction before emotions, biases, or trust cloud judgment. Marcus Aurelius faced this constantly. As emperor, he was surrounded by advisors, generals, and politicians, each with agendas. Some sought favor, others influence, and a few sought to manipulate him outright. Marcus mastered awareness and clarity. Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and around it, the restless waters are laid to rest. He observed human nature without judgment, responding strategically rather than emotionally. The Stoic approach is pause and analyze. Every interaction carries signals: body language, timing, phrasing, and subtle emphasis. These signals often reveal what someone truly wants. Recognizing this is not cynicism, it is preparation. Once you understand someone's underlying motive, you can choose your response consciously, instead of reacting emotionally or being manipulated. Let's break this down with a practical example. Your coworker praises your project and offers to help in the next phase. On the surface, this is kindness. But pause and observe. Are they positioning themselves to gain credit, gather insight, or align themselves with success? Your neighbor brings cookies after a vacation. Are they simply being neighborly, or are they subtly expecting a favor in return? The Stoic intelligence comes from decoding these layers. Ask silently, what is this person truly seeking from me? Epictetus emphasized the importance of understanding reality rather than appearances. He wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the context of social interaction, this means seeing through the surface and understanding intent before reacting. It's a tool to protect your energy, make better decisions, and navigate life with foresight. The dangerous intelligence here is subtle but transformative. Once you see every interaction as layered, you become strategic, not cynical. Compliments, advice, or attention are no longer naive signals. They become data. You can respond appropriately, safeguard your interests, and maintain composure. This doesn't mean rejecting genuine relationships. It means distinguishing genuine from strategic and choosing wisely where to invest your trust and energy. Awareness also provides leverage. When you recognize someone's agenda, you can align outcomes to mutual benefit. If your colleague is seeking approval, you can guide them towards constructive collaboration. If your neighbor expects a favor, you can negotiate boundaries consciously. Dangerous intelligence transforms potential manipulation into actionable insight. Another layer to this lesson: people often aren't consciously aware they are selling. It's human nature to seek influence, connection, and advantage. Recognizing this universal truth removes surprise, frustration, and resentment. When someone offers guidance, attention, or assistance, You don't blindly accept. You observe, evaluate, and respond deliberately. This is clarity in action, a hallmark of Stoic thinking. In essence, everyone is selling something, consciously or unconsciously. The world is a marketplace of influence, attention, and ideas. By understanding this principle, you gain a mental framework to navigate social dynamics, maintain emotional independence, and make smarter decisions. The practical takeaway is simple. Look beneath the surface. Pause before reacting. Analyze motive. Decide your response intentionally, not instinctively. The Stoics viewed awareness as power, and applying this principle allows you to act strategically while remaining ethical and grounded. The dangerous intelligence in Lesson 5 is the realization that every interaction carries hidden information. Decoding that information before it manipulates you transforms ordinary perception into strategic insight. You're no longer a passive participant, you're a mindful actor in a complex human landscape. Lesson 6. People show you who they are. Believe them. One of the most underrated and ruthless lessons in life is this simple truth. People reveal their true character in their actions long before their words confirm it. Ignoring these signs is a recipe for repeated disappointment and betrayal. Humans naturally want to believe the best about others. We ignore small warning signs, rationalize inconsistencies, and give second chances because hope feels safer than reality. But the Stoics teach otherwise. Maya Angelou famously said, "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." This isn't cynicism, it's clarity, foresight, and protection. Dangerous intelligence is seeing the truth behind the masks people wear. Let's consider a story from real life. Imagine a business partner named Alex. In the early months, he seems competent, driven, and aligned with your goals. But subtle behaviors start to surface. He exaggerates his contributions in meetings, stretches the truth on reports, and occasionally neglects commitments to the team. Each instance is small and easily excused. He's enthusiastic, you might say. Everyone makes mistakes, you rationalize. Over time, these patterns accumulate. Eventually, you discover Alex has been negotiating to sell the company without your knowledge, keeping all the profit for himself. Every early warning sign, the overclaimed credit, the forgotten promises, the minor ethical lapses, was a truthful glimpse of his character. The mistake wasn't in failing to spot it. It was in choosing not to believe it when it appeared. The Stoic approach is straightforward but brutally honest. Observe, acknowledge, and act on patterns, not promises. Words are cheap. Actions reveal reality. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle deeply. He wrote extensively about judging people by their consistent behavior rather than isolated deeds or eloquent explanations. Character isn't defined by occasional good acts. It is revealed over time in repeated choices under pressure. Consider everyday examples. The coworker who constantly shifts deadlines or avoids accountability. The friend who only reaches out when they need a favor. The romantic partner who consistently prioritizes convenience over commitment. Each action, each small slip is a data point. Dangerous intelligence comes from recognizing the patterns rather than being seduced by appearances, excuses, or charm. The key is not cynicism, but disciplined observation. Ask yourself questions like, does this person's behavior match their words consistently? Are there recurring patterns that suggest underlying motives? Am I rationalizing small warning signs instead of acknowledging them? Stoicism teaches that hope without evidence is a form of self-deception. Trusting patterns over promises creates mental clarity and emotional safety. It also allows for realistic decision-making in relationships, business, and life. You no longer rely on wishful thinking. You rely on observable truth. Another crucial point, character patterns are often revealed in small, inconspicuous ways. Observe how someone treats service workers, how they react when inconvenienced, or how they speak about those who cannot benefit them. These seemingly minor interactions are far more revealing than grand gestures or speeches. The Stoics believed that small, repeated actions are the purest measure of a person's nature. Dangerous intelligence comes from connecting these dots consistently. When a person displays selfishness in minor situations, expect selfishness in major ones. When someone demonstrates reliability, integrity, or generosity in small matters, it scales to larger contexts. This predictive insight is invaluable. Practical application. When observing a new relationship or partnership, keep a mental ledger of actions over words. Don't ignore red flags, no matter how small or infrequent. Trust what is observable, not what is hoped for. Adjust expectations and boundaries accordingly. Doing so does not make you harsh. It makes you wise and strategically aware. Finally, remember, people rarely change their core character. Circumstances may bring out different behaviors, but the fundamental nature, revealed in patterns, remains consistent. Recognizing this prevents wasted energy on unrealistic expectations, reduces vulnerability to manipulation, and sharpens your ability to navigate human complexity with precision. In essence, Lesson 6 teaches this. Pay attention to actions. Recognize patterns and believe what they show you. Dangerous intelligence is rooted in seeing people clearly, not in ignoring inconvenient truths. It is a tool to protect yourself, make strategic choices, and cultivate relationships that are based on reality, not illusion. Lesson 7. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It's easy to mistake comfort for safety. Most people live their lives chasing ease, stability, and the predictable routines that make them feel secure. But the Stoics knew the truth. Comfort is a subtle killer of potential. The moment we settle into convenience, we stop growing intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Growth requires challenge, struggle, and the willingness to endure discomfort. Consider the story of Tom, a brilliant software engineer. Tom had everything most people dream of: a high-paying job, flexible hours, a respected position on his team, and tasks that came effortlessly to him. For 3 years, he thrived, or so it seemed. Superficially, he was successful, secure, and content. Yet, beneath that calm surface, something dangerous was happening. His mind was stagnating. Tom began noticing small signs. Conversations that used to energize him now felt dull. Technologies that should have excited him felt overwhelming. He wasn't learning anything new, wasn't challenging himself, and worst of all, didn't even realize how slowly he was being left behind. Comfort had disguised itself as security while quietly eroding his capacity for growth. When his company downsized, Tom experienced a harsh awakening. In interviews, he struggled to demonstrate recent achievements or learning. His skills, which had once made him a standout, had grown outdated. What he had assumed was stability was actually vulnerability. The luxury of comfort had dulled his edge, making him less prepared than he realized. Marcus Aurelius confronted this same reality in his own life, though on a far greater scale. As emperor, he could have chosen a life of ease, luxurious palaces, indulgence, and comfort. Instead, he deliberately subjected himself to the rigors of military campaigns, political challenges, and philosophical practice. Every morning, he reminded himself. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. He knew avoiding difficulty was avoiding growth. The Stoics even practiced voluntary discomfort to train resilience and character. They slept on hard floors, ate simple meals, and exposed themselves to physical and mental challenges. This was not masochism. It was deliberate preparation for the inevitable trials of life. The goal was to develop a mind and body that could endure hardship without fear, anxiety, or weakness. Comfort doesn't just stunt growth. It makes failure more painful when it finally arrives. People who never face small challenges become unprepared for life's larger tests. Athletes who stop pushing themselves plateau and get overtaken by competitors. Professionals who avoid learning new skills stagnate and are replaced by those hungrier for growth. Even relationships suffer. Avoiding difficult conversations or challenges prevents connection and emotional depth. Epictetus, who endured both slavery and freedom, taught that life's difficulties are opportunities to cultivate virtue. He wrote that wealth is not about accumulating possessions, but about reducing desires, developing the ability to endure whatever life presents. True growth comes from actively seeking challenges, not avoiding them. Practical Stoic application. Ask yourself regularly, what am I avoiding because it seems difficult? Which skills or challenges would accelerate my growth if I faced them head-on? Where am I choosing comfort over progress? Dangerous intelligence lies in recognizing that each fear or inconvenience is a stepping stone to strength, insight, and resilience. Here's an example closer to daily life. Imagine resisting public speaking because it feels uncomfortable. Avoiding it keeps your anxiety low, but it also stunts influence, leadership, and confidence. Choosing to face that discomfort repeatedly transforms fear into mastery. Similarly, resisting difficult conversations at work or in relationships might preserve peace in the short term, but it blocks meaningful connection, respect, and clarity. The pattern is universal. Growth and comfort are opposites. Every skill, every lesson, every opportunity that initially feels challenging or intimidating is a potential catalyst for transformation. The Stoics recognize that those willing to endure discomfort develop mental toughness, foresight, and emotional resilience, qualities that make a person predictably successful and strategically intelligent. Ultimately, Lesson 7 teaches this: never mistake comfort for security. Seek challenges, endure difficulties deliberately. Use discomfort as a tool to sharpen your mind, strengthen your character, and prepare for life's inevitable hardships. Dangerous intelligence comes from the awareness that comfort is a trap. While others seek ease, you can choose the harder, less comfortable path and gain abilities, wisdom, and resilience that others will never even imagine. Lesson 8. Life is fundamentally unfair. If you truly want to see clearly, you must first accept this brutal truth. Life does not care about fairness. It never has. It never will. From the moment you are born, the scales are uneven. Some are born into wealth, others into struggle. Some are blessed with health, others with disease. Some are handed opportunity, others must carve it from stone. The universe doesn't distribute suffering or success with fairness. It distributes them with indifference. This isn't pessimism, it's clarity. And clarity is power. When you stop expecting life to be fair, something incredible happens. You stop wasting energy fighting reality, and you start channeling that energy into strategy, strength, and wisdom. You no longer ask, "Why me?" Instead, you ask, "What now?" That simple shift in mindset separates those who merely survive from those who ascend. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, never promised a fair world. They promised a path through it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he suffered betrayal, plague, war, and personal loss. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten by his master, yet he became one of the greatest teachers of philosophy. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, was ordered to commit suicide by his own emperor. Each of them confronted the same truth. Life is indifferent to your expectations. And yet, they found peace within that chaos. They didn't curse the world. They learned to navigate it. Epictetus wrote, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it, but wish for everything to happen as it actually does, and your life will flow well." This isn't submission. It's mastery. When you embrace amor fati, the Stoic love of fate, you stop resisting what is. You begin to work with life's current rather than thrash against it. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every injustice becomes a mirror that reveals your inner discipline. Imagine two people lose their jobs on the same day. Person A screams about how unfair the company was. They spend months complaining, waiting for justice that never comes. Person B accepts it immediately. They ask, "What can I control?" They update their skills, apply for new roles, maybe even start their own project. A year later, one is still bitter. The other is thriving. Same event, different response. That's the difference between resentment and resilience. That's the difference between reacting emotionally and responding rationally. And that difference, small as it seems, defines the quality of your entire life. We are told from childhood that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad ones. It's a comforting idea, but not a true one. Good people get betrayed. Hardworking people get overlooked. Cruel people sometimes win. You can't control outcomes in a chaotic universe, but you can control your internal system, how you interpret events, how you respond, how you turn pain into growth. This is where the intelligent mind separates from the naive one. The naive mind says, "This isn't fair. I deserve better." The Stoic mind says, "This happened. How can I use it?" The first keeps you stuck. The second moves you forward. The world will not always reward your effort, but that doesn't mean your effort is meaningless. Your effort builds character. Your perseverance forges depth. Your calm in chaos trains others in silence. When someone wrongs you, you can either become bitter or become wiser. When fate takes from you, you can curse the sky or craft meaning from the ashes. The Stoic doesn't wish for fairness. The Stoic builds strength within unfairness. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave." Unfairness is the fire. You decide whether it burns you or refines you. The next time something unjust happens, pause. Don't react. Breathe deeply. Observe your emotion. Then ask yourself, can I control this? What lesson can I extract? How can I turn this into a strategy, not a wound? Journal it. Reflect on it. Let the frustration transform into focus. Each time you do this, your emotional armor thickens, your reasoning sharpens, and your peace deepens. Unfairness no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes a mentor. Freedom doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from releasing the need for control. When you stop demanding fairness, you become unbreakable. No disappointment can enslave you. No betrayal can destroy you. No setback can define you. You begin to live in alignment with nature itself, calm, observant, unshaken. You see the world not as cruel, but as neutral. And neutrality is a gift, because within it, you find absolute clarity. As the Stoics would say, the obstacle is not in your way, it is the way. So remember, the next time life strikes you, without warning, pause, breathe, and whisper to yourself, "Amor fati." Love this moment, even if it's unfair, because within it lies your evolution. Lesson 9. Death and mortality, as the ultimate teacher. Life has a way of distracting us with endless trivialities. Emails, social media, petty disagreements, and the pursuit of approval from people who don't truly matter. Most of these concerns vanish in significance when faced with one undeniable truth. Death is inevitable. Mortality is the ultimate equalizer, the final measure of what truly matters in life. Consider one of my relatives who spent decades consumed by minor worries, the condition of his lawn, office politics, and what neighbors thought of him. When he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, everything changed. The fears that once dominated his daily thoughts evaporated. He no longer wasted energy on social approval, material comparisons, or trivial conflicts. Instead, he focused on what truly mattered: meaningful conversations, genuine connection, and pursuing the activities that gave him joy and purpose. This radical shift in perspective is exactly what Marcus Aurelius practiced in his daily reflections. The Stoics called this memento mori, the remembrance of death, not as a morbid fascination, but as a tool to clarify priorities. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." By contemplating mortality, he understood what is fleeting and what is truly essential. Facing death cultivates dangerous intelligence because it strips away illusions and exposes the real hierarchy of values. Arguments about trivial matters, anxiety about others' opinions, and the endless pursuit of material gain suddenly seem meaningless. Time becomes the most valuable currency, and every choice can be evaluated through the lens of limited opportunity. Imagine a CEO who obsesses over petty office politics while ignoring long-term strategy or relationships. or a parent who is constantly distracted by social media but neglects meaningful time with their children. Awareness of mortality rewires the mind to act with urgency and focus, prioritizing what contributes to lasting value over fleeting distraction. The Stoics understood that death is a teacher, not an enemy. Every reminder of mortality, whether a loved one's passing, a personal illness, or a near-death experience, offers a chance to realign life with purpose. Epictetus emphasized that our time is limited, and wisdom is recognizing that most worries consume time without yielding real benefit. Practical Stoic application. Begin each day with awareness that life is finite. Ask yourself, if today were my last, would I spend it this way? Am I investing in things that will matter when I look back on my life? Am I living according to my principles or just chasing distractions? Dangerous intelligence comes from consistently applying this perspective, ensuring that daily actions reflect true priorities rather than superficial pressures. This lesson also teaches clarity in relationships. When mortality is recognized, you no longer tolerate draining or toxic connections. You invest your energy in people who uplift, challenge, and inspire you. Conversations become deeper, more honest, and more meaningful because you understand the value of limited time. It's not fear that drives this wisdom, it's perspective. Anxiety over social comparison, material accumulation, or petty grudges loses grip. Decisions become deliberate. Goals are reassessed. Habits are refined. Every moment gains significance. The clarity gained through contemplating mortality gives you strategic foresight, emotional resilience, and a profound understanding of human priorities. Ultimately, Lesson 8 is about embracing mortality to achieve liberation from trivial concerns. When you accept that life is finite, everything becomes clearer. The work you choose, the people you spend time with, the values you uphold, and the legacy you aim to leave behind. Dangerous intelligence is not avoiding death, but understanding it, letting it shape how you live with intention, courage, and wisdom. You've now walked through 9 ruthless lessons, truths sharp enough to cut through illusion and shape your mind into something unshakable. But the journey doesn't end here, because Stoicism is not a theory you memorize. It's a discipline you live. Every day the world will test you. People will provoke you. Fortune will shift, sometimes in your favor, sometimes against you. And in those moments, these lessons are not meant to comfort you, they're meant to arm you. The goal of Stoicism is not happiness in the shallow sense. It's tranquility, the deep calm that comes from seeing the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. It's the strength to act without arrogance and to endure without despair. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the essence of every lesson we've explored. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you interpret it. You can't demand fairness, but you can decide how you respond to injustice. You can't stop deception, betrayal, or chaos, but you can remain rational, observant, and prepared. That's the quiet confidence of the Stoic, the person who walks through storms without begging the sky to stop raining. If you truly embrace these 9 lessons, your mind will begin to transform. You'll notice how less you complain, how rarely you react, and how calmly you handle things that once shook you. You'll become more deliberate, less emotional, more observant, and most importantly, more free. Free from illusions, free from expectations, free from the weight of things you cannot control. The world will still be unfair, unpredictable, and often cruel, but you will no longer be at its mercy. You will move through it like a quiet force, steady, focused, aware. That's what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature, not fighting the current, but mastering your direction within it. Philosophy means nothing without action. So as you close this video, choose one of these 12 lessons and apply it today. Observe your reactions, challenge your assumptions, embrace discomfort instead of fleeing from it. Write down what you learned about yourself by sunset. That's how real Stoic intelligence grows, through repetition, reflection, and relentless self-honesty. Every day is training. Every challenge is practice. Every emotion is a teacher in disguise. For centuries, Stoicism has guided warriors, emperors, scientists, and thinkers. But today, it's you who carries it forward, not by quoting Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, but by living like them, calm in the face of chaos, rational in the face of fear, humble in the face of success. That's how you build a mind that's not just intelligent, but dangerously intelligent. Because the person who sees clearly, acts deliberately, and feels deeply without being consumed, that person cannot be manipulated or broken. That's the Stoic way. That's the path of inner sovereignty. You've been watching Stoic Sage Academy, where ancient wisdom meets modern resilience. If these lessons spoke to you, don't just leave inspired, leave equipped. Subscribe, reflect, and keep walking the path of clarity, courage, and control. Because remember, the Stoic doesn't wish for an easier life. The Stoic becomes stronger than the life they have. Until next time, stay disciplined, stay calm, and stay wise. This is Stoic Sage Academy reminding you, your mind is your greatest weapon. Wield it well,